Do 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 do. Yeah, there's no way I'm including that in the final cut of this video. Incredibles 2 is finally here. Yes, after 14 long years of waiting, we have a sequel to The Incredibles. Now, I know this is a bit of a cliche for me to say, but The Incredibles is literally a movie I grew up with. I was 7 years old when the first film came out all the way back in 2004. I had literally just finished first grade. Now I'm 21 years old, 3 times the age I was then. I just finished my junior year of college, and it's finally here. Incredibles 2 is a movie I've been anticipating ever since kind of the cliffhanger-ish ending of the first Incredibles. And this movie, I've been excited for it even when it didn't actually exist. It was just a hypothetical thought in my mind. I was like, wow, Pixar could do some amazing stuff with an Incredibles sequel. It took them way too long, but the wait is over. Incredibles 2 is here. But does it live up to the hype? I am so happy to report after watching the double feature last night that I think this movie is pretty much at the same level as the first film. This is a really good and an extremely worthy Pixar sequel. And this is good news because Pixar with their sequels and prequels, Cars 2, Monsters University, and Finding Dory to a bit of an extent, haven't been amazing as of late. I think some of their follow-ups to their great classic films haven't been great outside of the Toy Story franchise. So I was really happy to see Incredibles 2 be at about the same level of the original film. Brad Bird returns to write and direct this movie, and I love Brad Bird even if Tomorrowland did kind of suck. He is a really talented writer and director, and he comes up with a really unique and fun story for this movie that takes it in some interesting directions I was not expecting. The voice cast also returns here. Craig T. Nelson is great as Mr. Incredible. Holly Hunter brings such a unique voice to Elastigirl, and she's fantastic in her role. And of course, Samuel L. Jackson as Frozone pretty much steals every scene he's in. The rest of the voice cast is fantastic as well. Newcomers like Bob Odenkirk, and of course, Brad Bird reprises his role as Edna. Always love seeing more of that character. And this is a Pixar movie, so of course, it's gorgeously animated. It's so crazy to see how far the animation has come in 14 years. Every little detail in this movie looks so good, especially the snow that Frozone makes. That snow looked real. I swear they actually just like put real snow in an animated movie somehow. It's so incredibly detailed, it's kind of scary how good animation is getting. Now, like I said, Brad Bird wrote and directed this movie, and I think he did a great job with his script. It's extremely funny, and honestly, I think it might be a bit more funny than the first movie. A large part of that is the extended role of Jack Jack the baby. We got some hints of awesomeness from Jack Jack at the end of the first Incredibles and with the Jack Jack attack. Short, but he really is full-fledged here. You get to see his powers in all their glory, and they do some hilarious stuff with that. He was really a highlight for the movie. Although I will say they do play up on some jokes a little bit too much in the movie, and by the end of the film you're kind of like, yeah, I get it. It's funny, but we don't need to see that joke over and over again. One thing I really like about the story of this movie is we dive deeper into the characters. Pretty much all of the Incredibles are more fleshed out in this movie than they were in the last film, which is really cool to see and is a great thing to get from a sequel. And of course, the first Incredibles movie is kind of an origin story of the Incredibles team. So this movie, they're a team at the beginning of the movie, so we don't have to have all that origin stuff holding this film back, which is really nice. However, that does bring me into one of my biggest issues with the film. They're already a team at the beginning of this movie, but you don't get to see a lot of Incredibles team-up action until the very end of the movie, which was kind of disappointing to me. I wanted to see a little bit more from them, and you have a good action scene at the beginning that the first film promises. But then the rest of the movie, they're split up, and it's good stuff. There's really good scenes, but you don't get to see a lot of Incredibles action until the end of the movie, which left me a little bit unsatisfied. But when everything finally does come together at the end, it's really good and very well done. And this movie has some fantastic action sequences, especially for an animated film, and kind of the simulated cinematography from the animation here is really fantastic. Also, Michael Giacchino's iconic score from the first film returns here and really just adds a lot to each scene. And then, of course, the villain. The villain is always an important part of any superhero movie. And I think the villain in this movie is pretty good. However, the twist involving the villain with this film was so predictable. As soon as this one particular character shows up on screen, I won't spoil anything, of course, but as soon as they showed up on screen, I was like, that person is going to be bad, and I was hoping Brad Bird's writing would be a little bit more clever than me, because I was already kind of plotting out how the movie was going to go in my head, and it kind of went exactly that way, which was disappointing to me. I thought he'd be more clever than the stories I could come up with by myself. Unfortunately, he wasn't, which was a little bit of a letdown. And then the twist villain reveal thing wasn't all that interesting to me because I was like, yeah, I knew that person was a villain from the moment they showed up in the movie. So that's a bit of a letdown. But besides that, I think The Incredibles 2 is a really worthy sequel, extremely entertaining, funny. You get to see more from these characters and dive deeper into their stories, and Jack is as great as he looks. That is why I'm going to give The Incredibles 2 an 8.5 out of 10. But those are just my thoughts though. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Have you guys seen The Incredibles 2? Please tell me what you think about the movie. This has been Parham from What Do You Know? Signing off.